Welcome to a short video about my uncle Paul Szpulak, who immigrated to Youngstown, Ohio at the end of World War II, where he was a prisoner of war. He came to Youngstown, Ohio and became an outstanding citizen and helped in the growth of this fantastic city. Paul Szpulak worked hard, raised a nice family, was proud of his new home, but never forgot his dear Poland. In order to set the stage for my Uncle Paul's early life, I think it's really important to understand a little bit of the history and what was going on in Poland at the time. This was around the year 1920, when the Poles were engaged in military combat once again with the Russians. And this picture shows the Polish defense of Warsaw at that particular time. Something for you trivia fans. In 1920 in the U.S., the 19th Amendment was passed, which gave women the right to vote for the first time. Okay, now back to our main story. In Vienna, Poland, on June the 7th, 1920, my Uncle Paul Szpulak was born. Vienna was a very small village, and here you can see a couple of old maps of his birthplace. It was nice to discover these old maps because they clearly show that around these small villages, the land was very flat. It's very suitable for farming. There were a lot of rivers and canals. There's little doubt that the Szpulaks and their families made their living by farming. Yeah, and at that time, Tarnopol, which is the region he was from, was still part of the Polish Empire, but that was soon to change because of the Second World War. On September the 17th of 1939, following German aggression on Poland, Soviet forces, allied with Nazi Germany, invaded eastern Poland. Tarnopol was occupied as early as September the 18th without any real opposition from the Poles, and it remained in Soviet hands for quite a while. Later, at the end of World War II, Poland's borders were redrawn. Tarnopol was incorporated into the Ukraine Soviet Socialist Republic. In 1991, the Ukraine became a sovereign country. Okay, so now I'm going to reveal part of my Uncle Paul's past that I had no idea existed, and it's really pretty exciting. This photograph is one of the earliest that we could find of Uncle Paul. It was probably taken maybe at his high school graduation when he was around 18 years old. As you can see, he was a very dashing young man, and I'm sure he had no idea of what was about to happen to him for the next several years. In January of 1939, at the age of 18 and a half, Uncle Paul joined the Army. So at that time, he had to show evidence of the exact place and date of his birth. On May 4th of 1939, Uncle Paul received his certificate showing he completed his rifleman training. Shortly thereafter, on May the 6th, he received his official military membership card. And here we see Uncle Paul being congratulated by a fellow soldier. It was probably for an outstanding achievement. From this point on, for the next year and a half, Uncle Paul spent that time fighting the Germans. But around July 11th, 1941, the war gods stopped smiling on Uncle Paul. His entire unit was captured, and the Germans moved everybody to Bernburg, Germany, to a work camp. Everyone was photographed and fingerprinted and had to wear an identity card. Shortly thereafter, all of the prisoners received official work papers stating that they were committed to work for the Germans at this particular camp. A great photo of my Uncle Paul and some of his friends passing the time away, pretending that this was their car and they were just here for a short visit. Around 1945, Uncle Paul, along with some of the other prisoners, were moved from Bernburg, Germany to Immendorf, to K Camp. It was at the end of the war, so K Camp was now controlled by the British. And it's obvious that Paul Szpulak made many friends during his captivity. So now, under British control, Uncle Paul became officially known as a displaced person, or DP. We can only imagine what went through his mind during those years of waiting to find a home, a new home, because his old home was gone forever. On April the 9th, 1949, Paul Szpulak began the process of getting out of the refugee camp that he had been in for the last 3 years with a sworn affidavit. And this document is simply a statement by the camp leader that Uncle Paul did his duties correctly. This is a photo of some of the British soldiers at Camp K. I think they really liked Uncle Paul. One of them was named Roby, and on the back of the photo, he tells Uncle Paul to always remember him by having a drink in his honor. And here's Uncle Paul's medical certificate, the last document that he needed in order to obtain his immigration visa. As part of the immigration process, Uncle Paul needed a sponsor in the U.S., and he got one. It was his uncle, Jan Muska, who lived in Youngstown, Ohio. And this is the official document granting that visa and making Uncle Paul now once again a free man. So this ends part 1 of Uncle Paul's life, and I want to thank my cousin, Annie Szpulak, for providing me with all the wonderful documents that her father kept all those years. But stay tuned for part 2. It's going to be a continuation of the life of Uncle Paul and what he did while living in the U.S.